Hey everyone, Frank Bria here, and I wanted to come discuss a very important thing that happens a lot when we try to sell high ticket programs, and that's when a prospect or client asks you to lower your price. What do you do when the client says, "This sounds really good, can you do it a little cheaper?" Or equivalently, sometimes they say, "Well, how about I pay you once I'm successful?" Okay, so we're going to talk about that. First of all, when you first design your program, the very first thing you need to do is be very clear that the price is right. And we do that through validation calls. Okay, so once you've validated it and you've had 7 conversations and 3 of those 7 people say, "Yep, that's a price I would pay," then you know that you've got the price right. So that's a very important step because everything else from here on sort of depends on you being able to be confident in what the price is for your program. Because if you're not confident, if you sort of aren't sure, maybe you're overcharging, then when a client asks you to lower the price, you're going to have a lot of pressure to do that. You're going to feel like, "Oh man, I'm overcharging here. I should probably do something about that." So that's why validation is so important, because when you have a validated price, then with confidence you can say, "No, this is the investment. The investment is $8,000 or the investment is $15,000, whatever it is," and you can be confident in it because you've already validated it. So that you have to do first. That's your groundwork. Okay, you have to have that first. Then I'm going to say pretty much never lower your price. So if a client asks you to lower the price and you're doing what I would say to be sort of mid-ticket, kind of high ticket, but in the lower range. So anything below about $20,000, $25,000, that price is what the price is. There's not a lot you can do to change it. And lowering the price doesn't help your customer. A lot of times we think, well, this is a perfect fit, I just want to get them in, but that doesn't always really help them, because basically they know they've gotten a discount, and they know that they're not as in or committed as they otherwise would be if they had paid the full price. And so sometimes we think, well, I just want to fill the group, or I just want to have this person's just a perfect fit. Like, I just really feel like they need what I have. This idea about lowering your price does not serve you or your client. And let me tell you why it doesn't serve the client. In all of the work I've done in the over 25 years of selling services, never, ever in any situation have I ever had a client who came in cheaper successfully complete the program. Never. It never happened. Now, I'm sure many of you have got exceptions to that rule, whatever, but I'm just saying that there is something about those people who either can't afford or are looking for a discount or are looking for some way to like not be as committed to the outcome, who in turn don't do the work. That's been my experience. And so you don't serve yourself and you don't serve the client by doing that. So when someone says, "I can't afford it," I literally, we'll talk through what that means and whether they really don't have the cash or whether they do have the cash, they just don't want to spend it on this. And people who are insisting on a lower price, I tell them, "Listen, I'm not comfortable with that for a couple of reasons. Number one, my experience is if you come in on a lower price, you're not going to be as committed, you're not going to do the work, and this will just be a waste of your investment. So I'd rather you not invest at all than you come in at a discount, because I don't think that you'll be successful, and I don't want to do that to you. So I'd rather you just save your money. Don't, like, if you don't want to make this investment, if it's not important enough to you, or if you literally don't have the cash. I mean, if they don't have the money, I definitely don't want to be putting them into a program where it's creating stress and tension and friction. That's no fun. That's no good. So definitely, if they can't afford it or they're not willing to put the commitment in, that's not a good sign. I mean, it just gets harder from here, right? Saying yes and paying you is where the real work starts. So I just usually say no to that. And I think you should too. Now, one exception. If you are doing services which are for corporate and are very high end, so greater than $25,000, and someone asks you to lower your price, I will occasionally consider that. But what I ask is, what would you like me to remove from the scope of work? In other words, I don't just lower the price, I also lower the amount of work I'm going to do. So if someone says, if I'm selling something for $75,000 and they say, we'd like to lower the price, I say, great, I'm happy to adjust the scope. What would you like me to remove from the scope of work that will bring the price down? That usually shocks people because usually they think they're just getting into a discussion about negotiating price with you, and they realize that they're going to have to give something up. Honestly, 70% of the time, people just go, you know what, just leave it all in and we'll just take it as the existing price. 30% of the time, if we're going to do the deal, they'll remove some things from scope, but then I feel fine about it, right? Because I'm fine. I lowered the price, but I also lowered the amount of work I do. The one thing you do not want to get into is you don't want to get into an energy space where you're feeling like you're doing something and not getting paid for it. So don't give away scope for free. Don't lower price for nothing. Get something out of it. But again, if it's less than $25,000 and you're selling to entrepreneurs or small businesses, I don't think you should be doing that at all. I just think the right answer is no, thank you. Okay, last point. What about the folks who say, why don't I just pay you when you're successful and then I'll just cut you a check? And also, a lot of people have programs like this where they literally don't charge they charge nothing until you get results. I think this is dangerous and I wouldn't do it. And when people ask me to do it, people will say, well, if you're so good at designing high ticket programs and getting them launched, why don't I just pay you after I make all the money from it? And I say, basically what you're asking me to do is to be your business partner, but you're not going to invest anything in the partnership. You want me to do all the investing in the partnership. And usually that makes them stop and think for a while. And then I basically say, yeah, I don't do partnerships like that. I'm not getting involved in a partnership where I do all the work and investment and you basically don't take no risk and just get rewarded when all the work is done. Like, no, thank you. Not interested in that. That usually stops them a little bit because they don't think about it from that perspective. See, they're only thinking about it from the perspective of this is lowering the risk for me. But they're not thinking about it from the perspective of they're not taking any of their own, they're not taking their own risk. They're not making their own, basically putting their own bet, putting their own chips on the table. So that's an absolute no to me. So if you ever get that request, hey, I'll just pay you when you're successful. The answer is absolutely no, never. Run away from those folks. They won't do the work. There's literally nothing to hold them to it. I mean, if you're doing, let's say you're a marketing consultant, right? Because that's usually where these deals come into play. If you're a marketing consultant and someone wants to pay you after all the work is done, there's literally no motivation for them to turn around responses, to fill out the intake forms, to post stuff. Like, you're basically a partner with them in their business, with them not caring if it's successful or not. So the answer to this is absolutely no. So just to review, here are the scenarios, okay? If you're about less than $20,000 and someone says lower the price, the answer is absolutely no. And the reason I say that is because in my experience, people who get discounts are not as committed to the outcome. And in my experience, they never complete the program successfully. So the answer I usually say is, listen, I find that if you're going to come in at a lower price point, that you're not going to be as successful. I don't want to set you up for failure. So the answer is no. Okay. That's point number one. Number two, if you have a program that's north of about $25,000 and you're selling to corporates or even small businesses, if they ask for a price discount, the question back is, what would you like me to remove from scope? So what do you want me to take out of the program, or what do you want me to take out of the work in order for you to get the price point? Okay. that you're fine doing that if you're above about 25,000, because usually there's enough work there that you can remove pieces and it still work. But keep in mind that they are taking a risk in not having your full program. Okay, but that's the second thing. And then third, if someone says, I'll pay you only after you're successful, you run away from those folks at full speed in the other direction. You definitely do not want to be involved in that project. Those are folks who want to take no risk for themselves, and there's literally no commitment for them to be successful. They're putting it all on you, and there's other people out there who are going to pay for your program. All right, so that's it. Remember, that was all based on the foundation that you've done your validation work so that you're comfortable with your price point. Remember, that's super important. We talked about that up front. All right, everyone, hope that's helpful for you. So stand firm, be confident in your value proposition. If someone says they want to commit at a lower price, you now know what to say. All right, everyone, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.